Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
And given that I am attending remotely, I'm going to turn over chair duties to Vice Chair Blazer for the remainder of the meeting. So take it away, Don.
Good morning. Mandy?
Roll call. Director Vasquez.
Here.
Director Blazer.
Here.
Director Fuhr.
Yes.
Director Bradford.
Here.
Director Messick.
Here.
Director Matthews.
Here.
Director Bishop.
And Director Vasquez, can you do the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment.
Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Directors on any subject matter that is not on the meeting agenda and is within the board subject matter jurisdiction. Public comment periods are limited to 3 minutes per person, and the total amount of time for public comment is 15 minutes. Persons participating by way of video conference or teleconference shall ensure their audio is muted at all times except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. When multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public violating generally accepted principles and decorum of official public meetings. We do have one public comment.
Yes, we do have one request to speak. Charles Sharp.
Didn't he use up all his public comment?
Be sure to do that. Good morning, Charles Sharp, Oregon House. Director Bradford, I hope you're feeling better soon. As you might guess, there are some passionate discussions going on in the foothills around the usual suspects, fire and water. I won't get into the water now, except to thank Director Matthews for taking the time to attend the Water District meeting on last Thursday. General Manager Whittlesey has said he thinks the Oregon House and Dobbins area can have some of the best fire protection possible. At the last two fire protection district meetings, there's been a discussion of undertaking a feasibility study for more water tanks for fire protection. The chair, other directors, attending volunteers, and the chief seem to be against this study for more water tanks. During the discussion, every objection possible seems to be made. A dozen people did take the time to write in their own words that they wanted this study. This is an indication of widespread support in the community for such more fire protection. The fire district seems not to care that much about what the community wants. On more than one occasion, I've been going down Highway 20 and noticed smoke coming from the foothills. Their fire is a clear and present danger for everyone in the foothills. If the fire protection district does not want to advocate for more fire protection, who does? The water district, the fire safe council, the county, the water agency. As you know, the water agency is building a multi-million-dollar facility in Oregon House. When a fire comes, and it will, is this facility going to be the only structure left standing? Is Willie going to be left looking around at a leveled community because nobody wanted to make efforts for more fire protection? I want to thank Director Messick for attending the fire district meeting on Tuesday and saying that the county is going to look into make sure the water tanks required for all new constructions always have water. This is encouraging. Some months ago, I asked Oscar at OES about this. Then I asked the county to provide a list of all the building permits in the last 10 years in the Dobbin Orange House Fire Protection District, where the water tanks are required. There are about 38, I believe. Perhaps this issue is now getting some proper attention. I hope Director Messick will enthusiastically support efforts for more fire protection in the foothills. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Charles. Seeing no more requests to speak or no requests on Zoom, we're going to move on to consent. Any public input on that?
Move to approve.
And any board comment before we approve it? No.
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a motion from Director Vasquez, a second from John Messick. All in favor?
Aye.
We actually need to do a roll call vote.
Okay. Roll call vote.
Director Bishop, Director Bradford,
Yes.
Director Vasquez,
Yes.
Director Fuhr,
Aye.
Director Messick,
Yes.
Director Blazer,
Yes.
Director Matthews.
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to discussion items, we have three. Two are action items, and the third one is one that I enjoy. It's a presentation from interns. So our first discussion item is number 3, and that is going to be Ryan McNally.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the board. Ryan McNally, your Director of Water Resources. So before you this morning is an action item to extend an emergency that has allowed for staff to expedite necessary repair measures, restore surface water deliveries and vehicle travel to the South Canal Crossing at Ostrom Road. So this is the failure that occurred in early May of this year. And although we are nearing the completion of the project, we're asking that the emergency be extended just a little bit longer to accommodate, final invoicing and one more element, which is final striping. So just a little background. I'll just provide a little bit of an update of the project. It won't be the final summary, but just a couple minutes to talk about the project so far. Our division is responsible for managing the operations and the maintenance of the South Canal infrastructure. But it's important to know that all the costs are reimbursed to the water agency from the 4 South member units. So as we develop these projects, as we facilitate these repairs, we do that more from a perspective of, how is this going to impact our farmers and our member units and their bottom line? And so we try to take measures to save them money in that regard. And that's why this is being pushed out a little bit further, because the final element of the project is striping. And to save money on the striping, we're going to leverage another project that's going on in South Yuba County. I think it's on Arboga and McGowan Parkway. Arboga Roads and McGowan Parkway, they're striping right now. So we're going to try to redeploy those contractors out to Ostrom Road to save some money there. So just a little background on the project that seems like it's been going on for a long time. You might recall this happened on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, 2023. The road opened up. There was a failure in the 2 96-inch culverts that crossed Ostrom Road. And on May 8th, we USA'd that area for underground utilities, and it wasn't until June 12th when we were given the go-ahead to begin excavation. So that's a 5-week time period there where we were kind of standing idle, waiting on the location of a fiber optic line that originates from Beale Air Force Base. There's some national security concerns there, so we approached it with kid gloves. We wanted to make sure it was done right, and we located the service. So 5 weeks, but we didn't stand absolutely idle during those 5 weeks. We constructed the 84-inch culverts. Those were all welded in place, as well as let me back up a little bit. The original plan was to, once we started excavation, we were going to pump water up and over Ostrom Road to maintain surface water deliveries to the farmers. Well, that comes at great expense of diesel pumps. These are the giant diesel pumps out there that would have utilized HDPE pipe. Because we had a 5-week period where we couldn't dig, we just allowed the failure to remain open, and water just free flowed through there. So for that 5 weeks, we didn't incur any expenses to the farmers for pumping water. It just kind of flowed through there. So there was a cost savings there. Then once that 5-week period was up and we were given the go-ahead to start digging, the team installed 360 feet of 84-inch smoothbore pipe within, it was about a week. I think it was a period of 8 days. Then we followed it up with about 1,000 yards of concrete. So this is a fix that'll be permanent to all of us. I mean, this is about as permanent as it gets. It's encased in 1,000 yards of concrete. And later this winter, when we dewater the channel again, we'll go back in and epoxy the inside of the pipe. Now, there's a difference between the 96-inch corrugated steel culvert, 84-inch smoothbore culvert. Now, the hydraulics associated with that, we can actually pass more water through the 84-inch culvert, smoothbore. So there was actually a gain there. You know, in effect, we have increased capacity at the crossing. So all in total, the total inconvenience to the people of Yuba County was 71 days because we were able to restore traffic on July 15th, 20. Equally as important, the impact to the farmers was 25 days when they had to pump water up and over. So that was far short of the 6 to 8 weeks we had originally estimated. So we don't have a final cost on the project right now, but we do expect it'll come in much less than what the original the estimate was. Again, that's just a quick update, and I'll be back in the next couple meetings to give a much more comprehensive summary overview and the potential impact to the member units that we've seen from this project.
Thanks, Ryan. That's a pretty impressive job. First class installation. Do we have any input from the public? Questions? No? Any questions from the board?
So moved.
Okay. We have a motion from, is that you? Okay. I only hear out of one ear, so I don't know where it's coming from. Motion from Director Vasquez, a second.
Bradford will second.
Okay, thanks. Okay, need a roll call vote?
Correct. Director Messick?
Yes.
Director Blazer?
Yes.
Director Matthews?
Yes.
Director Bradford?
Yes.
Director Fuhrer?
This is just to accept his report?
It's to continue
Extend
the
emergency.
Yes.
Director Bishop? Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. We're going to move on to item number 4, and Jacob is going to make a presentation, I believe, on the notice of exemption for North Yuba Rotary Screw Trap Feasibility Study, CEQA exemption.
Morning, board. Thanks for having me again. As you just said, this is an agenda item to adopt a resolution to authorize the general manager or his designee, that's me, to prepare and file a CEQA notice of exemption for the North Yuba River Rotary Screw Trap Feasibility Study. This study is being performed by the Yuba Reintroduction Working Group, which is a collaborative work group focused on investigating the biological, technical, and financial feasibility of reintroducing spring run Chinook salmon to historical habitat in the upper Yuba River watershed. Yuba Water is part of that group. In this study, the feasibility, safety, and efficiency of using rotary screw traps in the North Yuba River to collect juvenile outmigrant spring run Chinook salmon will be tested and evaluated. If you aren't familiar with rotary screw traps, they're large aluminum cones floating on pontoon platforms. The leading front edge dips into the water, and spiral wings inside the cone cause it to spin as flow and small fish pass through it. The flow and fish are funneled into a live box, and the fish are then captured so they can be collected or sampled or various other things that you might do with fish. The rotary screw trap testing in this study will take place from October 1st, 2023, so that's coming up, and extend through May 31st, 2024 at 2 sites in unincorporated Sierra County. One's at the Forest Service's Rocky Rest Campground, and the other is just upstream of Goodyear's Bar along Old Tollbridge Road. It's important to note that the rotary screw traps will not be deployed with live boxes, so any fish that enter the traps will pass right through. And this is because the intent of this study is not to test fishing efficiency, but rather to evaluate the flows of the North Yuba River that are compatible with fishing rotary screw traps. This is ultimately part of a pilot study, not actually part of a full-blown reintroduction. It's also important to note that while the study will take place from October 1st to May 31st, the traps won't actually be continuously fishing during that time period. Discrete flow levels are being tested. It's like 200 CFS, 400 CFS, and once those flow levels are tested, the traps won't need to be testing those flows anymore. So in total, I think we're planning on testing maybe 30 days in there. All right, so back to the agenda item. The intent is to authorize staff to comply with the agency's California Environmental Quality Act obligations by filing with the Sierra County Clerk's Office a CEQA notice of exemption. The study is consistent with the categorical exemption section 15306 for data collection. This sort of exemption covers basic data collection, research, experimental management, and resource evaluation activities which do not result in serious or major disturbance to the environment. This study fits perfectly into that category. To complete the CEQA process, the board of directors must authorize the general manager to file a CEQA notice of exemption, which will incur a $50 filing fee. I'll file it within 5 days of this meeting. And then last little bit of background information, the actual testing of the rotary screw traps this coming fall, winter, and spring is being performed by a small fisheries consulting firm based out of Oakdale and Chico, Fish Bio, actually one of my previous employers. They're really great people. Fish Bio is under contract with funds from a Wildlife Conservation Board drought relief grant that the agency was issued back in 2022.
So moved.
So I've got a quick question. This is not an unusual request, right? And we've done this before.
That is correct.
Okay.
I would like to second the motion, but before we second the motion, I'd like to, the grant started, I believe, was like $2 million from Fish and Game to find the feasibility of introducing, I assume, adult salmon to spawn and then to be able to find out the trapping and hauling them back. Seems like we didn't move very far if this is a 2-year grant and all we're doing is testing a screw trap. What's your plan for the balance of the money and what kind of timing? If you could give us a rough idea.
So I don't know the end date of the grant, but there are other components to the $2 million funds. Primarily, the action we want to take is this investigation of the efficiency of the rotary screw trap. So this is the primary purpose of the grant, but there's also habitat analysis and temperature analysis of scientific studies to determine the suitability of the North Yuba above New Bullard Bar for this purpose, spring run reintroduction.
Then they would introduce either hatchery juveniles, or would they take adults up and see how many juveniles they make?
Yeah, depending on the success of this phase, will determine what fish are actually placed up there, if any. It's very likely that there'll be hatchery fish because the regulations are easier to comply with hatchery fish than wild fish from the lower Yuba.
Thank you.
Okay, we apparently have a motion and a second. Any public comment? Any further comments from the board? And we will do a roll call vote.
Director Bradford?
Yes.
Director Fuhrer?
Yes.
Director Blazier?
Yes.
Director Bishop? Director Messick?
Yes.
Director Matthews?
Yes.
Director Vasquez?
Yes.
Okay, item 5, summer intern presentations. And Teresa, you're going to lead that off for us.
Yeah, just brief introductions. We kicked off the summer internship program early last month. So we have 7 interns, 1 in finance, power settlements, 1 in hydrology, and 3 in engineering. So we have 3 here today to present to you. We're going to start with Megan Marr in finance and settlements.
Now the fun part.
Hello, everyone. I'm Megan Marr, and as she just said, I interned in power settlements and accounting services. So to get us started, some quick facts about me. I was born and raised in Yuba City. I went to Sutter High School and graduated with class of 2022. I went on to Corbin University, and some hobbies and interests of mine, I like to do things to grow in my faith. I like to spend time in community, draw, journal, and be active, such as through volleyball. Now, career-wise, I'm not exactly sure yet, but this internship has opened my eyes to what I might want to do. And I can say at the conclusion of this internship, it is something that I may want to do someday. So this is what I worked on here. I'm going to dive into either of these individually over the course of the presentation, but I obtained education and created a tool related to energy risk management. I analyzed megawatts and revenue generated from Yuba-Water sites. I researched the natural gas and electricity price spike from December 2022 to January 2023. And overall, through these things, I increased my proficiency in Excel and Tableau. So on the education side of things, one of these I consider to be is reading through and discussing a new ERM policy through several meetings. This was very informative for me because I was able to learn different risks that occur in the energy industry, such as credit risks, price risks, operational risks, etc. I was also able to meet the ERM committee and just kind of see how you have to remain very organized in managing risk within an enterprise. Another thing that I consider to be my education is through taking the Enterprise Risk Management course by Ethan Hathaway. This was an online course that Andy Richmond was taking, and she introduced to me. Essentially, I was able to learn general knowledge related to risk within an enterprise, going through several modules. And then at the end, I took an exam that allowed me to become a certified ERM specialist. Just to kind of show the difference between enterprise and energy risk management. Enterprise risk management is essentially managing risk within any enterprise, and then energy risk management is a more subcategory related to just the energy industry. And then the tool I mentioned at the beginning that I created was the risk assessment and risk matrix. So this essentially is a chart where you are able to organize risks individually. So you give it an identity, describe it, explain the cause and consequences and who's going to deal with the risk. In addition to that, you also have to come up with a risk rating. So that's the multiplication of probability times impact. Probability can range from very low to very high, as well as impact. And then the risk rating is produced lowest at sustainable and highest at critical. So in this clip I've included here, this is just showing how that chart works. Using a formula in Excel, you are able to adjust the different levels of probability and impact, and it automatically calculates the risk rating off to the right. And then over here, I'm just showing you the risk matrix that those calculations derive from. So it's all pulling from that chart there. And then down here is just showing as you change these calculations, it automatically changes the number of each result that occurs. So as you can see, as I'm changing impact to medium, it put 2 at the medium and low cross, producing a moderate risk rating. So when I'm referring to analyzing megawatts and revenue, one of those things is doing a tunnel outage analysis. So essentially, I analyzed the potential lost revenue for tunnel outage of October 2024 through February 2025. And so I had to come up with charts for different risks, different things to consider when that does happen, such as average day ahead price each month, which we used data from 2019 through 2022 to figure that out. The potential generation during that time, and the potential loss of resource adequacy and carbon-free revenue. And then the additional thing that I did to do for analyzing megawatts and revenue was the weekly settlements. So essentially each week we would get a weekly payment advice from CAISO that would show us what we earned, what we lost. And Andy and I worked together to put this data in a series of sheets in Excel, showing a revenue breakdown, where we generated, and just all of the specifics related to what we incurred from different sites. So this is something I gradually got to do on my own over time. So I did it with Andy at first, and then I began to do these settlements on my own. This was very educational in Excel and Tableau because everything was in Excel, and then we would derive different graphs and average prices from Tableau. So the price spike of December 2022 through January 2023, this was inspired by the issue of the outstanding price jump from November 2022 through December 2022 related to electricity. I was assigned to go deep into this issue here, especially because the electric price increase was fivefold compared to 2021. Another thing interesting related to this price increase, we were able to follow the data of the natural gas price increases for this because it is half of California's generation. So looking at that data and looking at electric price data, we were able to get pretty much the same findings and information. So as I researched different market reports and articles, these three items are possible causes that I determined. So number one, this is something I saw across every single report, every single article was weather. So essentially during December, there was quite a bit of a cold snap. And so the demand for gas and electricity went up because consumers were using that more in their homes, of course. And that in itself made the price increase there. And then I said interstate relations as the second item, because we get a lot of gas imports from other states. That's 90%, according to an article. And so that was going down during that time, in part because other states were experiencing their own serving of cold snap. And so they had to hold on to their resources to meet their demand. And in addition to that, which goes into the third bullet, we were having storage and transportation issues. So one of those transportation issues that I'm referring to is how the El Paso 2000 pipeline ruptured in August 2021. This is a major pipeline that goes into SoCal, and at the point of December 2022, it was still not in use. So that was definitely producing a cutoff of being able to rely on other states' resources. Another thing to note is that the CPUC cannot control prices very much in the realm of gas because of the fact that we get 90% of it from other states. And then in addition to that, we were having storage capacity issues, especially related to the Aliso Canyon gas storage facility having a major leak in 2015, reducing our capacity greatly. And so some takeaways I had from doing this research, one would be that California should increase their ability to be independent on their own resources. The fact that we have to derive 90% of our gas from other states means that in times of crisis, especially when we're getting less imports, it's a bit difficult to hold our own in that area. And then that leads me into the second bullet. I think it'd be interesting to use more renewable energy resources, especially in the realm of hydroelectricity, which went up 24% in 2022. That may help in further dividing the price write-ups between gas and electricity. And so to finish out, this is just a slide describing the different tour days that I and other interns got to go on. So most of these are from the intern tour, which was going to several different Yuba-Water sites, like Daguerre Point, New Bullards Bar, Colgate, etc. I thought this was pretty interesting to share with you guys here. And then off on the right is a picture from the Hallwood tour. And so this little frame on the left is actually a video. Part of what was interesting for I and the other interns was getting to go inside the New Bullards Bar, deep into it, all the way out to the inside of the mountain. So this is just a little clip to show you guys what it was like being in there. A minute because another intern took it, but yeah, so that's just showing how we were all in there and how narrow it was inside. Thank you for your time. And are there any questions?
Thank you very much. I'm impressed. This has been a great opportunity for you.
Yes.
And I don't know if you mentioned what your future plans are, which direction you're going, or.
At the beginning, I said that I'm not quite sure yet, but part of me doing this internship was to discover if this is something I'd want to do, and I would definitely consider it an option.
Well, you definitely have potential.
Thank you.
Through the chair. Unfortunately, that screen is right in front of you. It's just, I enjoy seeing the sparkle in your eyes as you describe all these things. Every intern has had enthusiasm about working with the water agency. And one of the things that you mentioned at the last was that renewable energy should be a better focus. And if we could just get Nuisance to recognize big hydro as one of the most efficient renewable energy, he could achieve his goals overnight. So we'll have to wait till he does that. So, but thank you very much. It was a great show.
Thank you.
What I could see the top of your head.
Charlie, I think you had a question.
Yes, since you explained our big spike in income because of the cold weather last December and the lack of storage in California, do you see that scenario happening in the next 2 or 3 years again?
I'm not sure. I know that there was a lot of unique factors that I kind of explained that kind of contributed to the weird price spike, like having a pipeline that wasn't in use, and just everything was kind of one on top of the other. I should have mentioned this earlier, but I kind of thought that those 3 causes that I mentioned were kind of interrelated. I think they all kind of work together to produce the major problem of the price spike, if that makes sense.
Wayne, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm curious what your major is.
I'm a mathematics major.
It seems like there was math and there was political science and there was lots of things in this project. And I want to compliment you on your public speaking skills. Did a great job.
Very good. Anybody else?
Through the chair. Great presentation. Really enjoyed it. I would change the interstate relations to just scarcity, because it wasn't that they didn't want to sell it to us. It was merely they didn't have it because they were using it. Is that accurate?
Right.
So it's a scarcity issue. And then going to that, you mentioned that we get 90% of our gas out of state. Is that a choice that they are the only ones who have the natural gas, obviously Texas and places like that pump lots? Or is it that we could have had the natural gas here, but we don't use those resources here?
That's a good question. I wish I had the answer to that. I unfortunately don't. This was just, concrete data that I derived from different market reports.
Cool. Very intelligent young lady.
Well, thanks again. That was really wonderful.
Thank you.
Teresa.
Have you applied to work here yet?
There is an online comment. One moment.
Oh, there is an online comment. Josh, can you?
Josh, you should be able to unmute.
Unmute.
Something's in my eyes. Something's in my eye.
Okay, thank you, Josh.
You got a serenade.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Charles.
We have first choice, Charles.
Fortunately, I'm a sophomore, so I can't quite go into the line of work yet. But I'm thinking about you guys. I might come back.
Well, come back.
Thank you again. Teresa.
Paul in mechanical engineering, and then we have Jessica Martinez in hydrology. Jessica's going next.
Wow. Mechanical engineering. I'm in the worst seat in the house. I can't see anything.
How do we
That's
talk?
all right. I think I'll move over. No, that doesn't really do any good either. That's okay.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Jessica Martinez, and I did the hydrology internship this summer working with Caitlin and Carly. I am a fourth year at the University of California at Davis, majoring in environmental science with a focus in watershed hydrology. In my free time, I love to spend my time outside. I love to meet new people, and I love water. With that being said, what is hydrology? Why do we do it? And why is it important? Hydrology is the measure of water and its processes as it moves through the atmosphere, the surface, and the subsurface. We use different instrumentation to analyze these processes, and it is very, very important for water resource management as it informs our water resources managers on how much water we have, how much water we will have, and where it needs to go, such as for irrigation, for recreation, as well as domestic water use. So hydrology can be done everywhere in our water cycle. However, my internship focused on hydrology in our rivers, in our groundwater, and water diversions, so irrigation, canals. With that being said, I wanted to touch upon groundwater monitoring and groundwater because it is something that not a lot of people think about or not a lot of people are motivated to talk about. It's very hard to understand as we can't see it, but we do want to. But it is very important for irrigation and domestic use as it becomes our main water source when we are in drought or water shortage. With that being said, we want to make sure that the water underground stays at a good level. We are not depleting it too fast. And the way we make sure this is happening is through monitoring. So in the circular picture below, that is a monitoring well. And using our sounder instrument, which is that instrument at the very top, it's called a sounder, and it's basically just a big long measuring tape with a sensor that tells us when there is water, and it makes this big beeping sound, and that's how we are able to measure the depth to water. So we lower the instrument into our well, and it tells us depth to water, and knowing the depth of the well, we are able to track how much water we are using, so how the groundwater levels are changing throughout time. We do these measurements monthly, so I was able to help Carly out with these, as well as Caitlin. And as we have this data, we are able to track how groundwater levels are throughout the year and throughout the year's months. The next thing I wanted to talk about was stream flow measurements. And this is actually what I've spent most of my summer doing. This is very important as this is how we confirm the information that ditch tenders as well as operators are seeing. We want to make sure that the data that they are seeing is actually representative of how much water is moving through the watershed. So these two little boats at the very top have transducers, and these transducers basically send out a signal that then is able to calculate the velocity through a given subsection in a water body. So if we look at our diagram here, for any given water body, we are able to divide it up into different subsections, and each subsection has a known width and depth. And from that, we are able to calculate the area. And then our instruments, so our little boats, are able to calculate the velocity going through each subsection. And from that, if we take and add all of that and then use the area times velocity, we get discharge or water flow in cubic feet per second. We can also do these, so these boats are not manned, but we also have other instruments that we can actually hold. So those are the flow meters, and that's me and my boss in the river cooling down. Those are great, very fun to use, and very useful for measurements of flow. So on a hot day, that is exactly what I wanted to be doing. Hydrology, of course, is many, many measurements. We do everything from river temperature to flow through a pipe, that's penstock, as well as instrument calibration. We want to make sure that the instruments we use are accurate, accurately measuring. So hydrology is a lot of measuring, but as well as a lot of data analysis. And that's something that I don't really cover in this presentation, but I do want to make you guys aware that we don't just collect data, we also post-process. And the last and most important thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is water and the public. I have really enjoyed how Yuba-Water has really emphasized public education, and not just for the interns, but also for the staff. We've been on many tours for the staff, and one hydrology and one intern tour organized by the staff here. So thank you all to the staff who have taken the time to educate everyone. I have really enjoyed and really have taken away how much Yuba-Water tends to include the public to ensure that everyone is aware of why we do water the way we do and how we can always be improving it to make it more sustainable for everyone. With that being said, I hope to continue this trajectory of educating the public and bringing science into light and making it easy for everyone to understand. I'm going to be studying abroad in Norway for the fall semester, where I hope to continue to apply my field hydrology methods and continue my research in the hydrology area. I'm very excited, and I thank you all so much for the opportunity. Any questions?
How did your, compared to your expectations coming in, how was your experience? Was this more than you expected?
It was much more than I expected. Even when I was interviewing for the position, I knew that it was going to be a lot of field work, which I was very familiar with. I had been out actually in the lower Yuba River doing some field work through my school, through UC Davis. But this, just seeing everyone's enthusiasm working here and actually being a part of that has been just amazing.
Well, at least 3 of us up here are Aggies, so we appreciate you.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else?
I know we do a lot of groundwater well monitoring in the valley, but the people in the hills want to do well monitoring. Could you give a brief description of the problem between the hill monitoring and the valley monitoring?
I'm actually unaware, but I know that with groundwater, it can be very challenging. I guess you have to install your monitoring wells and you actually have to have the hydrologist go out there and take manual measurements, although we do have some instrumentation that we kind of plug into. Getting all of the hydrologists to all of these different sites. I mean, we are monitoring probably over 50 wells, well over 50 wells on both the south and north side down here. So I think one challenge for the hydrologists is just staff. It can be very challenging to get everyone everywhere.
Thank you.
That makes sense, yeah.
Any other questions from the board or the public? Charlie? Thanks, Charles.
I've got one question. It must have been an interesting summer to be a hydrologist with, all the precipitation this year. So was there talk around the office about, does this change our models that we've been working on? Is it too soon to know that? What's the talk?
Well, everyone is happy that there's water. So that was a great thing. I didn't come when there was drought because it can be very challenging for water allocation purposes. But yeah, having all this rain really helps. I was able to get some good measurements. So just everyone was happy this summer.
Did I need to turn on my mic? All right. Very nice presentation. I think everybody's asked the questions. So I hope you have a great future.
Thank you.
And Teresa, do we have one more?
We go here. Sure. All right, sorry about that. Good morning. My name is Drew McCall,
and I was the mechanical engineering intern this summer. I worked primarily with Ben Deal, and I also did some work with the rest of the engineers as well. So a little bit about me. I was born and raised in Yuba City. I went to Yuba City High School. There I shot trap for 3 years. Some of my interests now include cars, snowboarding, and hiking. So in terms of education, I actually just finished up at Yuba College. I was an honor student each semester, and I earned my associates for transfer in math. And then in the fall, I'll be attending UC Berkeley as a member of the class of 2025 in mechanical engineering. So a few of my internship highlights, I'll talk about each of these individually, but this is just an overview. My biggest project was the turbine guide bearing heat exchanger. It's going to hopefully be installed during the next outage at the Colgate plant. Then a few other things were asset management, document organization and revision, and then field work. So the turbine guide bearing heat exchanger, that's the picture of the unit that's going to be installed. The things that I did with it were I measured all of it, and I created a pretty complete 3D model of it that I'll show on the next slide. And then I also created a piping and instrumentation diagram for it, which will also be on the next slide. And then I calculated the pressure drop to make sure that the pumps that we had were going to basically be enough to pump the oil and the water through. And then I also created an install plan for the outage that is coming. So on the left is the 3D model that I created, and on the right is the piping and instrumentation diagram. You can't really see all the details of the piping and instrumentation diagram, but it just contains the path of the piping and then which way things are flowing, and then all of the instrumentation, all the valves, the pumps. So for asset management, I learned about whole life cost analysis, and that's something that the water agency is currently implementing, trying to get a whole life cost analysis on all of the equipment. So basically it uses different factors such as cost of failure and risk of failure and the design life of a piece of equipment to determine when the best time to replace it will be. Another project of mine was asset management tags. So one goal of the agency is to get tags with barcodes on all of our equipment, and the idea is that we could scan the barcodes and it would bring up the maintenance history and all of the information on the equipment that anyone would need to know. And so I went ahead and reached out to a few different companies and got some tag samples, and we're currently in the process of testing those. And then once we've determined which one would work best for us, then hopefully we can start the process of getting them ordered and starting to get them on all the equipment. So the last thing within asset management that I worked on was the risk register, and it's somewhat related to the whole life cost analysis. It's just another spreadsheet that has all of the equipment on it and all of those different risk factors. And then sort of like Megan was showing before with her presentation, you can type in the likelihood of failure, cost of failure, and other things, and then it'll shoot out, it'll shoot out the it'll basically let you know if you need to replace it. I mean, and how pertinent that is, how important that is. And then, so here are some pictures from my time out in the field. So on the left is while I was on the tram going down to the Narrows 1 power plant. And then in the middle there is when we were walking through the dam. And then on the right there are some wrenches for the Colgate power plant. So that is it. Do you guys have any questions?
Okay. Not an immediate question, but this is a very valuable for you to be able to do a hands-on training as opposed to a classroom.
Yes, definitely. That was one huge thing for me. So far in my time, my first 2 years of school, I haven't really been able to receive any hands-on experience at all. So
yeah, this will really give you a leg up going into Berkeley.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Congratulations. Okay, anybody else?
Through the chair. Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to compliment our staff who organizes these internships, because these are all meaningful projects. It's not just make work, and they're all really great projects and great experience for these students. So
yes, and they're all very welcoming. You never feel like you can't ask any questions, and you know they almost always have an answer for you as well. So
great.
So Ben was easy to work with.
Oh yeah.
Seth, you had a question?
Yeah, so when you mentioned barcodes, do RFID tags not have enough information and that's why you use the barcode instead, or is that just another option?
So the asset management system that we have provides a barcode. So that's what we'd be pulling it from. The barcodes already exist for all of the equipment we have. RFID would probably work, but it's just we have all the barcodes available already.
All right. And then on the actual device that you worked on, impressive work you did, by the way. I liked your report. The ball bearing heat exchange. Can you give me an overview of what this does?
Okay, so the turbine guide bearing heat exchanger is basically, we have guide bearings that go on the shaft of the turbine for the generator. And so basically you have oil that is used to create a very small layer, it's a very small layer of oil used as a barrier between the shaft and the bearing. And when you use it, it gets really hot and it has to be cooled down. So then you run it through the turbine guide bearing heat exchanger with cold water, and the cold water will cool the oil down. It's a plate heat exchanger, so we have a series of plates. And so you'll have water flowing through one gap between plates and then the oil flowing through the other. And that's repeated, over several plates, and they flow across each other. And that's what will cool the oil down. And then we have all kinds of instrumentation on there to make sure that everything's working properly. We have like flow meters, we have some valves, we have 2 different filters, but we only need one. So one's like a redundant filter in case the other one needs to be replaced, and we can keep running the plant or running the heat exchanger. And then different temperature gauges as well to make sure that the oil's actually being cooled.
Awesome. Is the device that we're installing a replica of the device that's currently there, or is it modified and different?
No, so unfortunately I actually had a picture of the original up there, but I think that I added that after the presentation or the PowerPoint was uploaded. The original unit, or the one that we're replacing, is original. It uses a different design and it's a lot less efficient. And the filters are also like tiny on it. Like, I can't speak on, I'm not sure if the new one we have has better filtering, but I would think so based on just the size of the filters. So
thank you.
Any other questions, comments, board, public? No.
Great job.
Great
job. Thank you very much.
Well, I think we're going to move on to our manager's report.
This is
What?
my favorite time to comment.
Well, I forgot I was going to say something before you.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to compliment all the staff for having this intern program going. It's a great benefit for us and them. So that was all I was going to say.
You did well.
Did I pass you up on anything? No.
I'm gonna go a little longer.
Okay.
So first off, I see the interns come and go, and I have to apologize to them that I don't always remember their name, but they're always positive and they're always doing something. But the reality is, I don't know what they're working on. I just trust that staff has them working on something meaningful. So for a couple months here, we got all these interns running around Colgate plant in the office and helping out. And I don't really know what they do until today, right? And this is super meaningful. This isn't just for them. I mean, they're getting, you know, great experience, but look what we get. I mean, Jessica's cross-sectional area of how to calculate cubic feet per second. I mean, that's just a great explanation of how it works. So when I'm reporting to you, you know, right now, NY28 is running at 2100 CFS. You understand now how they go calculate that and what they do. And then Director Fuhrer's question to Drew about, well, you did this to work with the heat exchanger, but what does it do, right? So I mean, it's an education for us too, as a reminder of what we do here at the agency. But like Wayne mentioned, I got to thank staff for doing this. But first off, I got to thank Megan, Jessica, and Drew. Excellent work, excellent presentations. I walked in this morning and Megan was sitting in this seat, and I jokingly set my, actually dropped my manager's report and said, "Oh, you got this, Megan. It's all you." And I went and sat in the audience. But the reality is they could do this. I mean, they're great public speakers. They're great at learning what their trade was and reporting out on it. I mean, they could do my job. That's simple. So thanks, well done. But also, I got to thank staff, but specifically Andy and Carly, Caitlin, Ben. I know you guys all work closely with these interns, and look at the product, the result. This is awesome. So thank you for that. And then lastly, the board. I mean, we wouldn't have 7 interns here working for us this summer without your support. And we've been doing this for several years. And like I said earlier, every year when it's time to make comments on this program, it's so fun to compliment all of us on this. And this is going to be great for their careers, whether they come back and work here, maybe, hopefully, or they go off to do other great things. They were launched here, and it's great. So thanks for your support.
Through the chair, I really wish you would record these presentations, because the amount of enthusiasm that they show is absolutely amazing in today's society, because people those age are kind of depressing some days. But you know, it's just, it would be nice to be able to show the public what staff does and what the interns do, and that could be part of our webpage.
Back on stage. Well, we have a fairly short manager's report. Bullard's is about 85% full. It's like 114 or something % of normal year to date. Obviously, we had a good water year, and we are drawing down the lake to meet our end of year storage target. One portion of the manager's report you'll notice is the June Power Systems revenue monthly highlights, and I should actually just have Megan. Knows that she probably put it together. But I mentioned to you throughout the spring that we will likely see low energy prices when we experience the snow melt. It's the time of year in April and May and June where demand is relatively low throughout the CAISO and generation is high in water years like this. So we see depressed prices. It's the opposite of the analysis we just saw about the December spike in prices. It's just the opposite. There's not a great demand and there's a lot of generation. And you'll notice that our actual generation revenue, not our RA revenue, but our generation revenue for the month of June was less than projected. And I think that's the first month in several years, probably since 2019, where we reported that, a lower actual revenue than our forecast. However, the RA was significantly higher than forecast, so our overall monthly total was a little bit more than forecast. I just wanted to point out that anomaly that in high water years like this, we do experience the depressed prices. Generally, and I'll remind you, our former Power Systems Director left last month, and so I've been taking over temporarily. I've been spending Mondays at the plant. Things are going really well up there. It's great for me to get connected with that portion of our staff. So I kind of have a little bit more knowledge of what's going on a daily basis. So I do know that the mini hydro is back online, and that's something I've been reporting that's been offline due to some excitation issues and some upgrades we were doing. But it's back, and generally the team is working on recreation maintenance, general road maintenance, getting ready for this winter, and also planning for our series of outages this fall, which this year include an outage not on a generator, but on a major facility. That's the large bypass at Narrows 2. It has had some performance issues the last several years, so they're going to take it down, remove it from its housing, and rebuild some of the systems there. It's a major undertaking. We won't have any loss of generation because of it, because it's not a generator, but it's major work, and it puts us in a slight bit of risk that we have to mitigate for, and that is it takes one of our main redundant water delivery systems through the Englebright complex out of service. So we have to plan for that, where you have to rely on the functionality of the Narrows 1 generator and bypass valve, and the Narrows 2 generator and small bypass valve. So it seems simple: remove a valve, replace some parts, and put it back together. But the planning that goes into that is pretty intense. All units are back online, functioning normally. Flows downstream of Englebright are, let's see, 2100 CFS. I did say it. I've reported in the past we're in El Nino. We'll see what that brings this winter. We're in kind of dead square in the middle of fire season. And on to communications. Since the last board meeting, our loan to the county for their pension obligations was covered in the appeal Democrat and territorial dispatch. We were mentioned in the appeal as part of a story about the city of Marysville's efforts to fix Ellis Lake and our support to that effort. Yesterday, Forbes magazine featured an article highlighting one of our vendors, Bentley Systems, and their project to create a digital twin of New Bullard's Bar as part of their dam safety monitoring. Pretty extensive article. In community impact, Jackie attended the first of its kind school bus tour and dinner hosted by Marysville Joint Unified School District. The community and business leaders came together to visit schools and talk and discuss the growth in Yuba County and Marysville and the impact of that on Marysville Joint Unified School District, enrollment numbers and facilities. And Chief Oliver with Beale Air Force Base gave Terry and Jackie a windshield tour and discussion on the day in the life of an airman at Beale Air Force Base. And we continue to work closely on the community impacts Yuba County can share with Beale and Beale to Yuba County. I had a discussion with Jackie this morning about kind of her role in the community. And one thing that came up is, you know, a lot of these things are kind of that Jackie works on are on the edge of water and power and flood control. And I said, Jackie, your role is to just communicate to the community the role that Yuba Water Agency serves in this community. And primarily it's flood control and water supply. But we have a hand in things like Beale Air Force Base and our relationship there. So I just encourage Jackie to continue doing what she's doing, because she's truly on an educational outreach mission. And sometimes we're on the edge of the agency's mission, but it's primarily related to what we do. So wanted to let you know that conversation. And also our next board meeting is August 15th, and I'll see you then.
Thank you very much. Okay, director's reports. I think we'll start this end with Director Vasquez.
Well, I went on the tour with I think all the supervisors went on the tour. It was really an eye-opening experience. My problem is that I asked them, I said, how are we doing on reading and math? And they say we're doing poorly. And that's not really a good report. If you're doing poorly, please look for a solution. That's the Yuba County way, and not go into all these needs and projects that are avoiding the original intent why they were formed. They're formed to send people out that can read, which is a big problem in today's society. We have kids graduating from high school that can't read at an 8th grade level. So,
I don't want to forget Director Bradford, who's out there in the Zoom area. Go ahead, Barry.
Thank you. So I just wanted to thank Megan, Jessica, and Drew for their presentations. I thought they were all excellent. They were all very unique. And I just want to echo whichever director said, you know, it's evident that our interns are not just doing kind of busy work. They're actually furthering the mission of the agency and doing incredibly important work in addition to learning something. And so I always look forward to their presentations and definitely appreciated the ones today. Also wanted to let my fellow board members know, for anyone who was thinking about going on the Water Education Foundation tour in the Eastern Sierra, I got an email yesterday that is just about full. So if that's something you're interested in going on, reach out to Mandy and she can get that taken care of. So that's it for me.
Thank you. Director Freer?
Interns were great. Thank you so much for your presentations. I have more questions I'll ask. But for now, I'd like to talk about the tour that we all went on, except for I think Gary didn't make it, and Mr. Messick, they were busy in CSAC. We had a presentation there by the water agency via Ms. Silman, and she had little handouts for us and talked about all the great stuff. And I think that very much plays to what you were talking about, in that we are part of the culture of the community, and that's very formative. And so things that when they germinate, we're there watering those seeds and making things happen. In specific, the Olivehurst Little League recently had a water issue, and they needed help getting those fields into play for those children. Jackie, through her community relationships, was able to cultivate the monies necessary to fix their problem, and now children are going to be able to play baseball. So that's a beautiful thing, and people are going to look and thank Jackie and the water agency for facilitating that. So the importance of what we do, not just in the obvious with Bullard's Bar, but in every aspect with all the pies that we have our fingers in, with all of the help that we provide, so important. So thank you, Jackie.
I'm going to just follow up a little bit on the Marysville tour. My takeaways were that Rachel Downs did a presentation on all the upcoming developments, which even though I know what's upcoming, it still sets you back a little bit with the hundreds and hundreds of houses coming, which means hundreds of people and hundreds of kids. So the schools are behind on their facilities, and they say that. They're looking for money to try to stay ahead of it, but it's definitely a challenge. And backing on what Willie said a little bit about Jackie and the community, we do quite a bit with the schools on hands-on programs like the rafting, the fish in the schools, developing the curriculum. So that's important to keep that message out there too. Anyway, it was a good tour. And I think that's about all I got to say. Director Messick?
Well, I really enjoyed the presentation you guys did today too. It was really interesting. I noticed all three of you highlighted the tour of the facility, thinking of applying for the internship next year so I can go on a tour of our facility. That's it.
She takes the tunnel.
Yeah.
Have you been in the tunnel?
Yeah.
That's like the most magical place.
I'm going on the 16th.
Director Matthews?
I'd like to cover two areas, maybe three. The internship program, I think, is not only beneficial to the interns, but it's also beneficial to us, because some of the interns in the past have eventually become our employees. So I would say to the interns, if you're not an employee now, always keep this in mind as you gain more knowledge of your industries. The other thing, I was fortunate, I went to the North Yuba Water District meeting, and their board is doing exactly what we had hoped them to do. Local people with good ideas are implementing them. And one other area came up, and I know we're getting a little bit on the side, but the people that originally put the Water Agency Act together were the people in town here that needed flood control, and the farmers in the valley that needed water because the groundwater was going out. But when we passed the issue, it was 90% in favor of it. So that meant the people in the hills were also supporting us, but didn't have a direct connection or benefits. But since we have started the forest programs to make our forests healthy and safe, we also have got in the area of fire safety. And as Mr. Sharp said, fire safety is a major issue in the hills. So anything we as an agency can do in the fire safety area would be also a way of including the people of the hills that didn't get the benefits that the farmers and flood protection got. And I think that we should keep that in mind and keep trying to make the hills more fire safe.
Thank you, Director Bishop.
One quick thing, I was on a Zoom call yesterday with a business associate in Boston, and he mentioned that he had read the article in the New York Times and recognized that our agency was mentioned in a positive way there. So he wanted to mention that to me. So people all over the country have read something about us, I know.
Okay, thank you for everybody who attended today. We're going to take a short break, maybe 5-10 minutes, and then we're going into closed session.
Recording stopped.
11 minutes.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.